Ciao Dave.
Ciao Benedetta, and thank you very much for asking me to speak with you today.
I have decided to do this video with you today because with the increase in security issues in the Red Sea area, the risks have also risen for yachts. Ambrey is definitely a global leader in private maritime security. Dave is Associate Director at Ambrey. He specializes in physical and digital risk management. Dave, what is the current risk situation near the Red Sea in the Bab el-Mandeb area?
The current risk situation in the Bab el-Mandeb area really depends on the type of ships that are sailing through. Indeed, it's a complex and significant risk area at the moment. In fact, we've got the largest gathering of military within the area that we have seen since the World War, the Second World War. So the risk really at the moment historically has been, as we know, Somali piracy, but the war risk at the moment has significantly increased in response to the conflicts happening in the Middle East so far. And what we have seen is a significant war risk that has been brought against merchant shipping, particularly targeting allegedly British, American and Israeli shipping from the Iranian-backed Houthis.
Are yachts at risk?
Yes, in short, yachts can be at risk. Predominantly it depends entirely on their ownership and their management structure. Certainly from a war risk perspective, if there is any kind of links or affiliation with British, American or Israeli owners or management, and that also includes British overseas territories and crown dependencies, for example Bermuda, certainly there is a risk to yachts sailing through that area. If we look though, particularly from a piracy perspective, we have seen a resurgence in Somali piracy within the Bab el-Mandeb and the Arabian Gulf area. Particularly from a perspective of being on a yacht, they are target rich, typically linked to high net worth individuals, and with a relatively low freeboard on board that vessel, it's fairly simple for pirates to attack a vessel and potentially board, as we have seen historically. Moving up into the southern Red Sea, we have 4 or 5 different instances of yachts that have been boarded by Eritreans, particularly on yachts that have sailed within the Eritrean territorial waters, that have ultimately led to boarding and detention.
Is it true that those without links with Israel, England or America are not at risk?
It's not strictly true that that is the case, no. What we've seen, we're talking particularly now from a war risk perspective, what we have seen are ships that are currently not affiliated with either Israel, the UK or the United States, that have been attacked. And the reasons for those attacks are because of out-of-date information held on publicly available websites and media channels that have therefore been used by the Iranian-backed Houthis to target merchant shipping. Of course, the Houthis have been very clear in saying that they only intend to attack British, American and Israeli affiliated shipping. But what we have seen historically is ships that are currently not affiliated with any of those states that have been attacked. And it's not just about the current ownership. The publicly available information goes back over a number of years where potentially there would have been financial investment from an American bank, for example, and that might now not be the case, but the information is still being used to almost justify and legitimize an attack from the Houthis.
We know many states have their military vessel deployed in this area. Is attention focused on anything in transit, or do yachts, since they are pleasure objects, receive less attention from authorities?
I wouldn't say that yachts, because they're pleasure objects, attract less attention from the military in the area. I think it's fair to say that actually all ships sailing through the area do not receive a particular level of military attention. The military, the navies that have placed assets down in the Red Sea and in the Indian Ocean are not there to facilitate necessarily individual passages. They are there to stabilise the region and protect the flow of trade that's sailing on one of the major waterways of globally. Having said that, if there was an incident and there was an attack, of course the militaries would respond, and they would not discriminate between a merchant vessel or a private yacht, for example.
What are your services for yacht protection in the Red Sea area and Gulf of Aden? And can you tell me about your Sentinel service as well?
Absolutely. Typically in the Red Sea, as we have done for the past nearly 14 years, we've provided physical armed protection teams on board a range of vessels, including yachts and super yachts and sailing yachts. That's just the one level of protection that would be afforded in the Indian Ocean, where it's commonplace to embark armed guards on board vessels. In addition, though, with the Sentinel service, that is a live 24/7 alerting system. But actually, if we go further one step from a risk management perspective overall, what we also offer is a service called Guardian. And now Guardian is a best-in-class digital watchkeeping system. With live 24/7 tracking of those vessels, and that really starts from pre-voyage. So that would be planning a voyage from the start, making sure that there was a vessel-specific and a route-specific risk assessment completed, and then all of the recommendations that would follow from that assessment would be provided and liaised with the owners to make sure that the maximum mitigation measures are being placed.
Today, do you think that a yacht owner choosing to transit from the Far East to the Mediterranean without any links to Israel can do so safely?
Theoretically, yes. Yes, it could. However, as we've already discussed, when we look at safely transiting, we can't just look at a current point in time of there being no affiliation, for example, to Israel. What we would have to look at as part of the Guardian service is a full vessel affiliation check, and that would include the ownership and the management structure of that vessel, not just at that current point in time, but also going back over a previous period to make sure that any affiliation was fully understood and then provided to the owner, and the recommendations, therefore, that would go with that. That's from a war risk perspective, but from a piracy perspective, certainly from a Somali piracy perspective in the Indian Ocean, there is no discrimination on vessel ownership. Attacks we've seen historically have appeared to be opportunistic, so any kind of incident or attack on board a yacht sailing through the Indian Ocean would be the idea would be that it would be prevented by placement of armed security on board that vessel.
About a year ago, there was the attack on Kisma's yacht, where several shots were fired. While surely something different, it still happened in the same area. Is there a link, and is there something we should learn from that incident?
Yes, we're aware of the attack on the Kisma yacht after she departed from Salalah. She was within Yemen territorial waters at that point of incident. The incident has all the hallmarks of a traditional piracy attack in terms of how that incident would have been treated. And of course, we've read and understood a lot of the reports that go with that incident. I don't think it would be appropriate to discuss the specific details on actually what happened, but there was an armed team on board, and effectively they thwarted a boarding on board that vessel. But it goes to show that vessels that are transiting through high-risk areas where there are physical mitigation measures in place, they should be utilised, and they are effective.
Aside from the Red Sea, area. Where else should yacht owners be cautious today?
Aside from the Red Sea area, there are the typical risks that we would see to vessels, particularly common yacht sailing areas would be around the Mediterranean, where we're seeing increased numbers at the moment of irregular migration. We've seen the MRCC that have actually reached out to yachts sailing in the area as the closest vessel to assist with known migrants sailing across the Mediterranean. Moving over towards the Western Sahara and up towards the Canary Islands and southern Spain, we have seen a 600% rise in irregular migrancy across those areas, and we've seen between 40 and 100 passengers at any one time that are being rescued. Over, of course, in the Latin America area and the Caribbean, we see regular robberies and indeed some fairly significant issues that are occurring there. What we're seeing certainly south of the Panama Canal in the Isla del Rey are violent robberies on board those vessels, and we're also seeing further migrancy issues in between Cuba and Haiti.
We all know about thefts on board, especially in the Caribbean, but there was news last week about 2 Americans killed on their yacht. Is violence in incidents increasing according to your statistics?
It's a twofold answer, really. The available data and information, particularly on violent crime within the Caribbean, is not easily accessible, and that's for 2 reasons. One reason being the discreet nature of yachting in the first place, where owners and managers will do or go to great lengths to try and protect their the news or any kind of information about their voyage and any incidents from entering into media or press. The other thing, or the difficulty that we have, is that there isn't a widely recognised reporting body within the Latin Americas or the Caribbean, such as we see over in West Africa or the Indian Ocean. So Ambrey, whilst we can utilise the Guardian service, particularly within Latin America and the Caribbean for yacht owners and other merchant ships, whilst we will facilitate and share that information where we can, we are working with local partners also to ensure that information is gathered and corroborated and shared appropriately with vessels that certainly subscribe to that service in the area.
What do you recommend to do when being pursued and when pirates are on board?
Certainly within a known piracy area such as the Somali Basin, it would be recommended that there are physical protection teams embarked on board those ships. And the physical protection teams, certainly from security companies, will have a very well tested and tried set of standard operating procedures, and there will be certain escalation points through the rules on the use of force. And those SOPs have been designed to prevent any kind of boarding, not just on yachts, certainly on merchant vessels also. And indeed, we have seen in the past, like we did with the Kisma, we've seen a boarding attempt thwarted by the escalation of those procedures on board from the security team. If there isn't a security team on board that vessel, then the vessel will have their own procedures on what they need to do in that type of situation. But the recommendation, of course, would be to switch on their emergency alerting system and follow their procedures to lock down and get to their citadel or safe muster point and wait for assistance.
Are there other parts of the world where Ambrey is active in protecting super yachts?
Yes, absolutely. There are many areas of the world. There's, for example, private yachts that we're supporting with route passage guidance, certainly around the Caribbean and the Latin America area. We're also working on commercial yachts with the digital Guardian service around the areas of West Africa. and also passing through the Gulf of Aden. The Guardian service, what's unique about it is that it isn't defined to one particular area. There are 17 dynamic elevated threat areas that Ambrey assess globally, and Guardian can be used as a pre-voyage and a during voyage digital overwatch service to ensure that yachts are passing freely and with the maximum mitigation measures that they can have in place.
Dave, this summer I'll be sailing with my yacht between North Sardinia, Corsica and the Balearic Islands. Do you think I'll be safe?
Certainly from piracy in the area, yes. But I think just to be safe, you should probably take me along with you, and you can just then relax and enjoy the beautiful scenery whilst I keep a watch out for anything going on.
Thank you, Dave. Very kind from you. Thank you for your time, and well before this video I hope never to need you. Today I understand the importance of always being supported by a service like yours for a higher level of security that comes through awareness. Thank you, Dave.